All right. I think we're good. Still getting used to EV Mux. Um, okay. Oh, let me get my comments up so that's ready when people show up. Okay. Hi, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us if you're here. Um, I'm Jake, obviously. This is Shay from the channel Zachary Shay. If for some crazy reason you're not subscribed already, make sure you go subscribe right now because he's the man. And
Thank
we
you.
are we are here today because we both are obsessed with Janny Wurts and the Wars of Light and Shadow. And we just wanted to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do.
Right
There's
on.
no, we don't have like certain super specific topics or anything, right? It's just, we're going to be spoiler free. So people, you're safe to watch this if you haven't read the series yet. We're just going to focus on book 1, Curse of the Mistwraith. But we both jotted down a couple notes maybe to hit on, but we're going to see where the conversation takes us. So, my friend, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's been a chill day. I'm excited to talk some Curse of the Mistwraith. I actually took a break from reading Warhost today, so
Ooh,
I really wanted to read this one because, as you know, this one is pretty. Like, I think this may end up being my favorite,
mm,
but I had to like read up on Curse for this conversation, so I had to
yeah,
set down. But at least I was setting some Janny down for some more Janny.
yeah,
So.
exactly. How much do you have left in Warhost?
I so I'm only about 150 pages in. It's been slow going because
Okay.
there's just been a lot of life stuff. I went to that Abercrombie signing, just been busy.
Yeah,
But dude, like you were not lying when you said Ships like really leads right into Warhost. And like Ships is a very fulfilling book in and of itself if you do view them as separate volumes. But there's like so much build up to that like Warhost from the very first page, it's just like pedal to the metal. So
yeah,
very
yeah.
enjoying that one.
That's awesome. I'm so happy that you are doing it straight through as one book. I really do think, like you said,
As
you
men
can
of
do it
taste,
separate.
right?
The purists that we are, we got to do
Yeah.
it. We
Well,
got
I
to do
think
it.
you were the one that really sold me on it because I wasn't aware that Janny had that they were one that was separated. I hadn't heard that yet until I saw it on your channel, and I was like, okay, so definitely right on through.
Yeah, yeah. When we got there for our read along, I was talking to Janie about it, and she was just like, "Please read it all as one." No, we talked about it at the ICFA conference also. She's like, "Please do it all as one." I was like,
Mm,
"Say less, Queen. I'll do
I'm
that."
so jealous you got to meet her in person. To be honest, I'm so
She's so cool.
jealous.
She's so cool, dude. Oh, speak
One
of the
thing I
devil.
thought was, oh, what's up?
Okay.
Yes, the lurker. She emailed me and told me that she'd be lurking.
Aha, I love it. We got Philip here as well. Depending on what we say, I'll read Mistwraith or Gardens. Oh, that's so hard.
What's the question?
It says depending on. Can you not see comments as I pull them up? Maybe
Let me
not.
see. I'm still seeing Janny questions lurking
Oh,
otherwise.
interesting. Depending on what you
Oh,
say
I'm
here, I'll
seeing it now.
read. Okay, I'll read Mistwraith or Gardens first. So choose your words wisely. Um, well, we'll see where this goes.
I'd have to go with Curse as far as like
Yeah, do
entry
that
into
one.
a series. One thing I thought was super interesting is we both kind of came to Curse with like different mindsets because I believe, unless I have this incorrectly, Gallant was your first entry into Athera, and my first entry was Curse of the Mistwraith. So we kind of like
Yeah,
had different expectations and different familiarities when we experienced these two different stories.
yeah, yeah,
And one thing I really love about Janny's books, at least so far, and having read like two of the main books, the novellas, short stories, is there doesn't really feel like there's a definitive reading order. Like it feels like the context you can go into the Gallant with, having read Curse, is an interesting place to start, and having the context of the Gallant going in, like vice versa, they both have like it never feels wrong whichever entry point you choose. There's just an added context. Like
yeah.
there's some stuff I picked up on in the Gallant that I probably would not have picked up on if I hadn't read this. And
Hmm.
likewise, there was stuff in this that if I had read the Gallant first, I probably would have been like, "Oh, like that's this." Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I'm very excited to. I want to reread The Gallant sometime in June.
mhm.
Um, because I gotta keep waiting for us to get to Fugitive Prince and our read along. So I'm gonna reread The Gallant and I'm gonna read all of the short stories that I'm able to. I think there's one that we haven't gotten to yet. Um,
Mm.
but after Warhost, I think you can read all but one. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, I think it's all of them but Black Bargain, which is like After Peril's Gate or something like that.
That sounds right. Mr. Goodcat is here. Chance
Uh,
is here. Start book 3 draft right now. Moving through it.
right
Here we
on, right
go.
on. You just started that, by the way. I saw.
Yeah, I think I hit the 30% mark today. Uh, Jared, what's up, man? Thank you for stopping by. Another big fan of Janny's work. Um, yeah, I'm like 30% of the way through, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a really cool start. I'm excited to see where it goes for sure.
So, question: when did you like first hear about Wars of Light and Shadow? Like, when did you?
Whew.
Do you remember?
I think so. I think I saw the discussion videos that Philip and Joanna and AP were doing,
Hmm.
and I was just like, "Oh, okay, that sounds interesting." I think I might have watched the spoiler-free one of book 1, maybe. But I was at least like, "Okay, if those guys are reading it, then I know it's great." So like,
Right.
I trust their judgment. And so I think that was the first time I heard about it. And then when people started reading To Ride Hell's Chasm, and I think this is when John at Talking Story read that because he was doing it to lead up into the series that he was planning on doing. And I was like, I'll read it. That sounds cool.
Hmm.
And here we are, I guess.
Oh, so To Ride Hell's Chasm was your entry into Janny.
It was. Yeah, it
Okay,
was.
yeah, that's one I have not gotten around to yet, but Jake was kind enough to send me that copy, so I very much appreciate that.
There we go. Has a loving home. What about you? What was your first hearing of the series?
It was actually crazily enough, AP Canavan had a discussion where I don't know how I got to this level of the internet because I didn't even look up Wars of Light and Shadow. I didn't know what it was yet. But
Uh-huh.
AP Canavan was talking about her prose style and the concision of it. Like, and that's really the word I would use to describe it. It's so concise. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah,
books that I really love. Like, for instance, I love the Cosmere. There are moments where you could turn your brain off when the action's going on
for
and
sure.
but it's still a great series. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that,
Yeah.
but like one thing about these books, yeah, no, like
That's
I'm a
funny.
fanboy as well. I love the Cosmere.
Yeah.
But one thing about Wars of Light and Shadow and just Janny's writing in general, you cannot turn your brain off for a single second. Every word on the page feels like
Yeah.
pinpointed down to evoke the exact emotions you want. And that's like the main word I would use to describe her writing is concise. But AP had like a whole video on where he read different segments from different points in the series that were kind of spoiler light or at least spoilers vague. And I was like blown away by the prose style. And I was like, okay, like this is what I've been looking for. Prose of Malazan. I love Robin Hobb's prose. And this gave me that same like just gravity to the text. Like it was coming through to me just in AP reading it.
Yeah. That's a really good concise and gravity are very good words for it, I think.
Hmm.
Um, 'Cause I think also what I've been trying to say when we talk about these just Janie's books in general is that you're absolutely right. Like you can't turn your brain off. You got to be paying attention. Every word matters, but at the same time, like that shouldn't. I don't want that to come off as like intimidating. That it's
Right.
like so difficult. It's not that it's so difficult. You got to be locked in. It's just that it all
You get the
matters.
most
You got
out of
locked in.
it.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
still think it's enjoyable even if you don't catch everything. Um
Sure.
like I hate this belief that it is like a dense series. I think there's depth to it, but it's not like you shouldn't be worried about missing things. Like when you have this big
Yeah.
11 book series, a lot of people have some trepidation, especially when they hear that the writing is so intricate and so well done. They're worried that they'll miss stuff.
Hmm.
I feel like it's not the type of thing where you'll worry about like in my mind, the things that I do miss, that is just going to make it more fulfilling on a reread,
Yeah.
and it does have this very like evergreen quality that I haven't really seen to anything aside from like Malazan.
Mm.
It's like I know that these lines are building up to something that I just don't have that knowledge yet. So I even just in the knowledge we get, say in like ships, it makes me wonder like if I went back and read Curse now, like what would
Yeah.
that context, what things would I notice now that I've had those knowledge bombs?
100%. That was one of my thoughts right after I finished book 1. I was like, I can't wait to reread this series, like read the whole thing and then start it over. because
Mhm.
there's got to be just because Janny said this a million times. She's like, you are on the ground level of like you're in the basement, right? You have
Right.
no idea where this is gonna go, and that's so exciting because like there there is it's man it's tough because I agree with you. I don't think dense is the right word because it's not confusing at all. It's all right there,
No,
it's
like
spelled out.
it's
It's
blunt. Like it
yeah,
tells you what's happening.
yeah,
It's never
it's
I never exit a scene going, "What did that mean?" Like I
yeah,
know what was meant. It's just there's a few lines in there where I'm like not quite it's referencing something that we as the reader have not been let in on yet, but
yes,
it's
on
coming.
purpose. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
When we're meant to understand, we will understand. Um, wow. Okay. Yes. I don't even know where to. So on that same note, right? With just the it's complex, but also very straightforward at the same time. I
Right.
think one of the notes that we had written down was like the world building, and I think that fits
Mhm.
that same idea. I think we both agreed that this is like Tolkien level world building in the sense of
Oh, for
there's
sure.
so much history, so much lore. There's so much. It's all tied together. It's all integrated. It all matters. It's not just there to fill in some gaps or whatever. Like this is a real world, and we're just kind of visiting for the books. And
Yes.
there's so much.
Almost it's
Are
a
there?
real universe, really. Like if
That's
you
true. That's true.
right.
Yeah. What are maybe a couple things from the world building that jumped out to you, or that you're like excited about, or you like a lot, or whatever? Like just to kind of keeping it kind of as spoiler free as we possibly can.
I thought the use of some of her more fantastical races were like I said in my video that these feel kind of classical in a way, but like not in a overt way to where she's trying to subvert the classical fantasy tropes of the different fantasy races and
Hmm.
all those different cultures. Like in the first book, it almost feels like Athera is like medieval Europe in a way, and then the further the series goes, the less you get that idea about it.
Yeah.
And it is like actively subverting what fantasy was at that time. But it doesn't feel like in like a over the top way, like let me try to subvert it. I feel like she just wrote a very like real world, like took the fantasy skeleton and like fleshed it
Yeah.
out, instead of just actually trying to subvert the tropes. But honestly, like most of the classical fantasy tropes I feel are subverted even in this first book, which I think she just did super awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely want to make sure we touch on some of those things too. Um, I know. I do. Here, let's point this out. Chris is here. What's up, man?
Oh, what's up? Great
High on
dude.
my list. I've seen one or two of your videos. I want to check out a couple more, but I'm liking what I'm seeing, man.
No, he's a really good dude. Good friend
You're
of
right.
mine.
Good
He's got a
dude.
great channel.
Yeah. And I want to shout out Alex here. Thank you so much. I appreciate you a ton. That's awesome. And thank you for being here. Um, One of the things that I really liked also is like most fantasy fans, I'm a sucker for you give me maps, you give me like a glossary or a
Mhm.
dramatis or any of these things. And when you give me the glossary, it's nice just to help you kind of follow what's going on a little bit better, right? But it's also just that extra layer when you give me pronunciation, because I love to pronounce things the right way, the way the author
Right.
had it in their
Right.
head. I just like that. So I
Mhm.
love that that's in here. And also there's, as always with the series, there's another layer that she gives you the etymology of the made up word.
Yes, like the
And
root words and everything. Like you
yeah.
can just tell. I mean, I'm sure I've seen your interview with Janny. You know that like she had the inkling for this series like before college even, and then like had a whole life experience. So she had like
Yeah.
years and years of thinking this through, and
Hmm.
it's so evident in every like from just the main text, the glossary, the map, uh not to like go off on a side tangent, one thing I thought that was like really next level well done is the framing narrative that we get. This is page one. Framing narrative we get of these sorcerers going back into the third age. And it's one page that you get this whole framing narrative that shows you like the context of what you're reading for an entire 11 book series. It's laid out in one page.
Yeah.
And I actually saw AP talking about this, And there's so many nuances to it. Like they mention Erathon's name, they don't mention Lysair's. They
Hmm.
say Erathon, Master of Shadow, and the Lord of Light. And I think that that is just a small inkling at like these sorcerers who are going back, who are looking at this history. Like where is their bias at? Because it stated that they want an unbiased account of what happened. But in a way, the fact that they humanized Erathon by naming him shows a little bit of bias already.
Hmm. That's yes, very well spotted. You picked that out. I remember you mentioned that. I can't remember where I heard you mention that, but I was just like, oh man, yeah, like that kind of that I missed that one. So that's
Mhm.
again what's so wonderful about these books is like when you talk about it, you just catch stuff that that we missed the first time around. Uh, Worth finishing the Wheel of Time. Shay will agree, I'm sure. But then you can come back and but yes, definitely please read these. Uh, but yeah, dude, the framing narrative is really interesting because it's such a light touch that we get.
Right.
Like the prologue is this long. It's like a half a page, right? It's so short, but like you said, there's so much packed in there, and like oh man, like anybody watching this, if you're curious, go. I'm sure AP's channel, if you search Critical Dragon, Curse of the Mistwraith prologue or something like that, it'll probably pop up.
Mhm.
That I believe he just reads the prologue on there, right?
Yeah.
Or I just read the prologue in the one of the videos I did.
Okay.
That like it's very short, but like you'll see what we mean, how it just packs in a million things, but it's so deftly handled. Which is, I mean, it just that's what the series is, right? It's just I'm even here we're talking about it, and I'm just blown away at how um just how this was done. I every time I think about it, I'm just like, how did this work? How did this work?
It is probably like my biggest anomaly series, and that like it is well loved. Like I see it in like John's read along, like everyone loves it, yourself, like everybody's
Hmm.
really hot on it. But when I read it, I was definitely surprised by like it seems like it's getting its flowers now, but
Hmm.
it's like the amount of flowers it's getting is not balanced with the quality of the series. I think it's like again like the framing narrative, the way it set that up, like so many layers of the book are incredibly nuanced and insane.
Yeah. Why don't we get into you mentioned Erathon and Lysair being sort of our,
Mhm.
I guess you would say, are the two primary characters that we start this story with. Um, so without getting into spoilers, I guess when you started the book, what did we get the prologue, and then we get into that first chapter set,
Right.
and like what was your initial reaction to them, and what was your initial reaction, and then also how did your feelings continue or evolve or change or whatever as you kind of went through the story?
Right, right. So I think that the way that they introduced these two characters, there's a major juxtaposition there. Like when we
Hmm.
first get Erathon, he's almost dehumanized by the perspectives we get viewing him. And that's something that she keeps up throughout like a lot of her books is you always get other characters accounting of Erathon. You get other perspectives on him.
Hmm.
And that's honestly probably one of my favorite things about him as a character is the level of empathy and mainly empathy, but also like the attachment that she is able to create through distance. Like
Yeah.
I feel a sort of empathy with Erathon that I don't know if I would have felt if I'd constantly had his thoughts. Like
Mm.
you so many perspectives around him. But in terms of like when he's first introduced, he's almost given a viewpoint that dehumanizes him in a way. And when they pull him out of the well, this is spoilers vague, but like when he's first encountered by these other characters, he is called Master of Shadow. He's called the Queen of Amroth's bastard, and it's only after those descriptions that they name him Erathon. That we get his name, that we get him as a human.
Yeah.
Where Lysair is like shown to have all this grace right at the beginning. He's blonde haired, he's regal, he is in his element. And when we find Erathon, he's very much not in his element. And I think surface level, you could be like, oh, Erathon kind of comes across as like a bad guy, and Lysair comes across as more noble. But I would argue in each of their first pages, you can see inklings of some of their more kind of the contrary nature of that. You can see a little bit of like Lysair, I believe, in his first little page, it mentions even the commoners knew not to, even the servants knew not to pester him. And whenever he was practicing with sharpened steel, and I took that to mean that he kind of has a more hierarchical point of the world. He has a little bit more of a, I mean, he does have a more privileged upbringing than Erathon,
Sure.
and um, I don't know. I thought that that was like the way it comes across. The use of imagery of this light and dark can almost skew your perception, but if you really look at like how they're being presented, I thought that the inklings of both of them were pretty clearly stated out on the page to a degree.
Yeah, that's so cool. Now I want to go back and reread it because I didn't when I started it. I was just like, I had that exact thing. I was like, oh, Lysair's gallant prince, and Erathon is, I, I don't want to say bad guy. I'll just say that.
Mhm.
That's kind of how it was coming off initially, and then, but I didn't catch any sense early on. So, and it's not just that those are. I don't want anyone to listen to this and think like, oh, it's just the reverse. Like it's not that simple.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray area. They're both very complicated, well fleshed out characters, and so okay, so we have this introduction to them, right? And
Mhm.
the story more or less is we're sort of introduced to these brothers that then are uh, sort of through circumstances forced into working together on this quest to rid the world of the Mistwraith, right? This thing that is cursing the world, and so we see that they're very opposed, and they're forced to kind of come together in this time, and it's an interesting. It's funny, I hear that premise, and I'm just like, oh, like I'm sure that's been done. What I mean, at the time, obviously, this is 30 something years old, right? And so maybe it wasn't like done a bunch of times then, but it's like, oh, I feel like I've seen that before. But then I think through and I'm just like, have I seen that before? I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
actually know that I've seen that, even though it feels so familiar. But so there's so many fun. I don't want to spoil anything. There's so many fun character moments as we kind of go through that initial part after they meet and stuff, and we get introduced to the world of Athera, and
Mhm.
we start to kind of orient ourselves. And we talked about how deep the world building is, and how there's we mentioned honestly we haven't even mentioned that much about the actual physical world or anything like that. We mentioned some of the races, we mentioned some of the language stuff, how like she has the etymology and the some of the root words for all these the made up words in the book and everything, right?
Mhm.
It's also thought out, but the geography is all very purposeful.
Right.
There's all the nations and the rulers, and then the for lack of a better term, like the hand of the king, so to speak, in
The
Game of
chaos day
Thrones,
in.
Caetan,
Yeah.
and which took me forever to figure out how to pronounce, but
I had it
you
wrong
know,
at first.
yeah,
Keith Dean. I think I said Keith Dean, and which I don't think is
yeah.
correct.
I think that actually is what I said at first too. Um, but yeah, so we have all the nations and the politics and the rulers and all that kind of stuff. We have mentioned the. Did we talk about the sorcerers yet? I don't know if we did.
Oh, the Fellowship of
So
Seven.
we have multiple groups of mages, basically, right? So
Right.
what? How do you feel about the fellowship?
See, that is such a layered one because I thought I knew how I felt about them in book one, and by the end of book one, complete 180. But then I
Mm,
got into book two and I was like, okay, maybe I was like, my assessment
mm,
turned over too quickly in book one. And I
uh huh.
feel like these assessments will continue to somersault and take new shape as I go throughout the series. But I would like to say it's had three major shifts. Like, well, no, I'd say two major shifts. Like the beginning, I had my preconceived as a fantasy reader. Oh, this is what the purpose they serve in the story. Then by the end of book one, I was like, no. and like I guess just heaved at them. And then in book two, I'm like, oh, okay, okay. Like I see you. Like I don't get it, but I get that I don't get it. And
Yeah.
I see those nuances, and it's crazy how much she's able to change your perspective of these different groups multiple times. I'd even say she does the same with the Choreothian, like the sorceresses.
Yeah.
You don't always know their motives, but your perception of them can vary a lot throughout the series.
Yes. Absolutely. Um, oh, Alex gonna catch up on this. Inspired him to start the series. Let's go. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. I completely agree. And I think that that's one of the major aspects of the series that I'm having so much fun with is
Mhm.
that we're introduced to something. I'm like, okay, cool. This is what this is. And then we learn some more and like, oh wait, it's the opposite. And then you learn some more. It's like, no, wait a minute, it was the first thing. Or like, and you just keep flip flopping back and forth. You don't know who to believe. You don't know who's telling the truth, who's lying, who's right or wrong, who's got good intentions, who's got maybe some ulterior motives. The ulterior motives might like it might seem bad, but like maybe they're actually bad. So like there's like this, there's so much weird, not weird, complicated, just gray area, topsy turvy stuff happening, and that's been so fun. Even just within this book, you get that, and then when you do ships, it's there's just so much there's so much more, and we mentioned already how we kind of get that with Arathon and Lysair. We get that to some extent with something else that's big, is all I'll say.
Mhm.
There's a lot of examples of this, and that's one of the things I'm most excited to continue reading in the series is to see like how does my feelings keep flip flopping, like where ultimately do we settle? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, let's see, Red Sunny. It's worth remembering these people have been around hundreds of years. Yes, we're getting a small window in their world. We've only read the first volume so far, but time matters a lot.
Mhm.
Um, the yeah, time. You're referencing the Fellowship or the Sorceresses, I imagine, right? Um, so yes, time matters a lot. Seasons matter, right? Like I think there's something going on again with the world building. Like I want to hear what you think of the magic, because to me, I'll just kind of kick it off that what I love about the magic, it's not just magic. Like
Mhm.
it's not just there because they can do magic. It's like it's part of the physical world, and it's
Yeah.
tied up with the changing of the seasons. It's tied up with like music and resonance
Frequencies.
frequencies. Like it's like we said, everything is interconnected. It's just like it blows my mind to think about it.
I'm
What
actually
do you think of the
very
magic?
curious. Speaking of the magic, the final book being called Song of the Mysteries,
Hmm.
I'm very curious. Like, I'm so far behind that I shouldn't even be asking that question. But I'm like, what do you know that like Florence, not Florence, the Jennifer Lawrence, where she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I'm looking at Song of the Mysteries. I'm like, what does it mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
I know it means something. Like with
Yeah.
correlation between the magic and music that we see in this series, I'm like, something's going on with that title.
So,
Uh,
something tells me that was a very intentionally chosen group of words. So
yeah,
yeah,
same. Yeah,
we'll
I think the way the magic is written is very dissimilar. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't even call it a magic system. It's
right.
less of like a system that you can easily map the metrics to how it works, and more of just something that is like very much involved with the world and has a close relation to both the world of Aethera and the different things that have inhabited Aethera, question
Hmm.
mark.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a pretty interesting nuanced
Yeah.
like layer she brings to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that too. It's like it feels like it's this is this is like the exact kind of magic that is like really like I like the Cosmere. I like the hard magic. It's science. I have this theory. I'm working on this theory. Sanderson's just been writing sci-fi all along. He's never written a fantasy book. because all his
Right,
magic is
right.
just science we don't yet understand, right? Or the other way around. Anyway, so it's not that. It's not just the complete anything can happen at any time because magic. It's there are rules, there are restrictions, there are limitations. We as the reader don't understand all of them, but the people using the magic understand it at least enough to conduct themselves. Maybe they don't
Mhm.
know everything either, but like there very clearly are some rules to it. We just don't have everything spelled out to us as if it's a video game, right? And I
Right.
really appreciate that. It makes it really it makes it more. I have more of that sense of wonder that you get with
Right.
like a softer thing, but then I have from a harder magic, I get that same like, well, how can they do this? And I'm like thinking about the rules that I know so far and trying to piece things together,
Mhm.
and so I'm
It
getting the best of both worlds.
it really does tie that line, like, it never feels
Yeah.
like Deus Ex Machina, like somebody's about to bust out a spell that fixes everything,
Yeah.
but there is a certain level of distance that the reader has with their understanding of the magic. So you're
Yes.
never quite discerning the minutia of what's going on with the magic, but it never felt like, one of the Fellowship sorcerers was just gonna pull out a spell that would solve everything. I never once got that vibe to it, so
Yeah.
I think you perfectly walk that line. Because sometimes to me, like when I was like about like 3 4 years ago in the fantasy space, I was like, oh, I love hard magic, and that seemed like to be the big hot thing. And there is a time where I really do enjoy a good hard magic system, but sometimes when I read too many of those books in a row, it can kind of take the wonder out of the magic. And I mean, we all love fantasy because we've been drawn to that sense of wonder.
Hmm.
Sometimes leaning too heavily into the hard magic system can take away from that a little bit. I mean, there's a time and place for it. I'm not saying hard magic's
Sure. Yeah.
bad. I'm just saying,
Yeah. I'm with you. I had the same thing. I was man. If you would have caught me like even maybe like 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, like I like softer magic, but I'm a hard magic guy.
mhm,
Like I would have just said that. But now as I've just continued to read more, then it's like, well, I like all of it. But I think now I do still very much like all of it.
mhm.
But if I had to give a preference, it's something in the middle where I can kind of like we're talking about here. You get the benefits of each, and yeah, I don't know. But it's nice to be able to have a variety, right? Kind of
Yeah,
bounce
there's a
around with
time and
stuff
place for everything. I'm not
for
saying I
sure.
prefer soft, but it is it is nice to have that sense of wonder. And whenever I'm in the mood for hard magic system, Sanderson be cranking out a book every year, so
Oh,
I
dude, yeah.
can I can get my fix.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got another one coming later this year. I think Secret Project, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, like Isles of the Emberdark.
yeah, I'm actually really excited for that one. Quick Sanderson tangent in our Mistwraith discussion, but that'll be cool.
Same. I'm
Um,
pretty pumped for that.
yeah, yeah. The so with the magic, when we haven't gotten too many like long looks at it yet here in this book, but we do get a little bit. The way that it's written, to me, it just feels so like grand and huge and like something momentous is happening. Like it's there. You don't really. It's not like a Harry Potter where it's just like a quick little flick of the wand and something happens. I
Mhm.
mean, there's some minor stuff, but a lot of times it feels like these like whoa something something big is happening, and it's so much fun to read. There's actually a scene in Ships that really stands out to me of seeing some of the Fellowship use magic that just felt wow. It just like I'm almost at a loss for. I literally don't know what words to use to describe the the feeling I got. By the way, we have royalty in the house, the person who coined the term transcendental fantasy for this
What's
series.
up?
What's up? Sam is here as well. You didn't miss much. We're just rambling, dude.
Yeah.
We need to get
No
Sam to read this
rhyme or
series, by the
order.
way. That's
I was actually trying to sell him on it last night. Well, not trying to sell him on it, but I was telling him. And one thing, okay, so a little side tangent here. One thing that does, I feel like I had this misconception, and I think a lot of people do when they hear 11 book series, that I think Wars of Light and Shadow is very different from any other of like the double digit series, even the ones I love, is that it doesn't feel like it's like a 5 book series that has been spanned out. Like it almost feels like this could be like even more books than it is. Like so much ground is covered in each book. Like if you're worried like, "Oh, these plot points that won't even get addressed till book 5," like no, they're getting addressed this book.
Yeah.
If not then the next book. But
Right.
then like you realize that there was like even deeper stuff that you didn't realize you were following. Like there were definite plot points in Ships of Merior that in my head were going to be like post Warhost of Vastmark level addressed. But it's like it really does feel like a pretty fast paced read.
Yeah.
And sometimes it like Ships of Merior does not feel like you're reading book 2 out of 11 at all. Like it
No.
feels like you're like ramping up. So it's like I can only imagine where this series continues to go because so much ground is covered. Like it doesn't feel like I'm 2/11ths of the way through this story, like
No, it
at
doesn't.
all. Like, but I
No, it
know
doesn't.
from Janny herself, she's like, "You haven't even started," and I'm like, "I feel like
Yeah.
I have started." Feels like
But it goes back to what you're saying about how concise the writing is. Like these books could not be any shorter. The series is just that there's just that much that happens that we need
Mhm.
this many pages. And they're not like crazy. I mean, most of the books are, how long is Mistwraith? Like 500 something pages long? It's not crazy. Um,
Let me see.
I literally have it right here. I could grab it. I'm lazy. But
Like 600.
so yeah, okay. They're not crazy. It's not like they're like these they're not Stormlight length, and they're
Right.
not even
Right.
Malazan length, right? So um it's, but yeah, like it it just surprises me how tight the story is. Because it's like you're saying, we're not used to that. We're used to, as much as I love Wheel of Time, right? Like there's some stuff that I'm like, okay, we could have compacted this together. We could have got through this a little faster, right? Um, we both love Stormlight. Stormlight's got that,
Right.
right? So it does seem pretty rare, the conciseness that we do.
And I
Um,
think it's like longer length as a series leads people to have that perception when
yeah,
they've never opened it up. But
sure.
it's like you hear 11 book series and you're like, "Oh, it takes its time." And it's like it does in some aspects, but in other aspects like it hits the ball rolling in a lot of plot points.
It really does. Yeah, the way the scale is a good word for how the magic and how much power they have. Yeah, it's crazy. Longest runs about 800 ish. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. No big 1,000 page. Even if you do ships and warhosts together, it's like 900 or something, right? Um,
Mhm.
so it is what it is. I am
As
actually
you
interested
should.
though. I'm interested in, once we get to, so 11 book series,
Mhm.
accidental segue, 11 book series that's divided into different arcs, right? So it's
Right.
even easier to digest in that way, that you don't have to commit to the entire thing all in one go. You can kind of break it up a little bit, kind of like Robin Hobb's stuff. And so this is just arc one. It's just this book, right? So you get a very uh, obviously it sets up a much larger story, but it's contained. And then ships and Warhost, same thing, right? Um, and then you get the third arc, Alliance of Light, right? That is what, 3 books, or is it 3 or 5? And
It's
then 3 at the
5.
end, 5, and then 3 at the end. Um, so with that 5 book series, I'll be really interested to see, or it's not 3. Yes, okay,
No, I think it's
1.
Initiate's Trial and Destiny's Conflict, and then
Yeah,
Song of the Mysteries is
should be
yeah,
pretty
one two
pretty slow.
five two one.
Yeah. Which, is it an accident that that's symmetrical? Probably not, right? I'm sure that's like that for a reason. But yes, I'll be interested to see, like you were saying, we get some kind of plot line, and we're like, man, we're not going to get this for a while, but then it comes back around really quick within the same book. I wonder if we'll have to wait longer for some of those things in that,
Longer arc. Like
the
you're talking
longer
about the
arc.
Alliance of Light, like that
Yeah,
5 books. That I've had similar thoughts about that. Like I wonder if it takes its time a little bit more. Guess we won't really know till we get there. But
right.
one question I you like I thought Curse of the Mistwraith like I definitely would not want to stop reading after book 1, but I thought book 1 did close out that arc. Do you feel like
Mhm.
Warhost did a similar thing where like at the end of that it felt we were just talking about how the arcs you can like read them and then pace yourself that way. Do you feel
Yeah,
like it had a similar draw to like the end of Curse?
for sure, for sure. I feel like I want to say I've heard Janny say this somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure somebody can correct me if they've read the series, but I want to say there's like a small time jump between each of the arcs. Because there was like what was it, 5 years I think between Mistwraith and Ships,
Yeah.
and so I want to say that's the case, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
But even that would make it fit even more that you can kind of take a quick little break. And what do we get here? Chibipo knows what's up. Alliance
Oh,
of
this
Light.
is the
Fugitive Prince sets the
expert.
stage for the events post Ship's War Host, and then Grand Conspiracy kicks into high gear, keeps going through Barrel's Gate. Sign me up. I'm here for it.
Do
That'll
you
be
think
fun.
you're gonna be able to, this is between you and me on this live. Between you and me. Do you think you're gonna be able to like wait for John's group to go on to book one of Alliance of Light?
Book one, yeah. I think because I'm the. I say that for two reasons.
Mhm.
One is I planned for so they're reading Warhost now, so we won't all read Fugitive Prince until July. So it's like it's a long
Right.
wait for me, right? So I plan to
Mhm.
do the short stories and reread the Gallant here in the middle to kind of get my fix a little bit. I got some other Janny books, like a couple standalones and stuff I can do. Yeah, dude, you sold me on this. I gotta. That's a good choice
This
to maybe
one
slot in there.
is fire.
Yeah.
Master of White Storm's fire. I cut you off.
Yeah, that's but yeah, I might grab that if there's time. I think the other thing that I did is I packed a lot of cool, like really good, really fun stuff into June. So I
Mhm.
think that'll help. We might be reading something together in June. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. But yeah, so that'll help get me through. But
Mhm.
it's tough, man. I don't know what pace if you've thought about what pace you're going to go through the series. For me, it's like when I finish one of the books, I don't want to wait a month and a half or 2 months or whatever to read the next one, but
Mhm.
I feel like I benefit from doing so and giving it a little bit of space to breathe and just sit in my brain and kind of, I don't know. It feels like Malazan did the same thing for me, where when I got some space from it, it just stayed there, and I feel like I got more out of
Right.
it.
Mhm.
Hello, hello.
I
Have
kind of
you?
feel
Yeah.
similarly in
Okay.
that like it is a series I kind of want to do take a little bit of break and like think about, and I had the same mindset with Malazan, like, and it's ironic that these are the two series that probably like do you probably should take the most time to like think about and like process what happened, but I feel similarly to how I felt with Malazan and that I'm probably going to rip through this.
Yeah.
um there's especially a scene in Ships. I mean, I don't want to ever be the person that's like, wait till book two, because book one I think is phenomenal. Like right from the jump, before we even get to Athera, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
But there's a scene in book two where I'm like, okay, it is pedaled to the metal, and I don't know, like I will not stop reading until something gets in the way. Like this is going to be the main series for me this year. So,
Yeah. I love it. I love it. How, out of curiosity, we've talked about how it's probably good to slow down a little bit, really be present with these books as you're reading them. What, like, how much have you slowed down compared to like other stuff that you obviously, different books are just different with what speed we might read them. But
right.
have you noticed that this is like really slow, or just like a little bit slower than normal, or like how does that work out for you?
So it's I don't know. I think I slow it down more than I did with Malazan. I think I took my time a little bit more. Um, and it's the level of the conciseness, like I said. Like
Hmm.
Malazan is another one that is very concise. It's my favorite series of all time. But there were, certain plot points that didn't seem as vital to me. And this is not like Steven Erikson genius. You'll never catch me saying anything negative about Malazan. But in Wars of Light and Shadow, there is a certain grave in each scene where am I blacking out each time?
There's like little. It's fine. There's
Okay.
little
Um,
baby black house, but that's okay.
okay, sweet. I'm like, am I seeing that or is everyone seeing that?
I don't know. We'll find
But
out if someone comments.
there's like a more so than with probably any series I've read, it's like not a single scene I'm like really racking my brain to think of a scene that if you took it out, things would no longer make sense. Like every single scene, like there have been multiple times where like it's just been a long day, so I passively read it and then I'm like, okay, we're going back because I need to get as
Yeah.
much as I can out of this scene. And I really don't mean that to sound like, oh, you have to bring your A game. Like this was a I was sick recently and Ships was a book that like got me through my sickness. It was like such a joy to read that book and be in Athera when like my body like I was just my sinuses were clogged and it like I don't want it to feel like a daunting read, but it is one that like demands your attention,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but not in a daunting way, at least for me. Like I never felt like, I got to give Athera my attention. It just requires me to go a little bit slower, and every single time I do adjust to the speed and the cadence of the story being told, I get a lot more out of it. Also, side note, never have I read another aside from maybe reading like Shakespeare, like I recently read the Henriade plays. Nothing else I have read has made me want to read it aloud as much as Janny.
Mm.
Like a lot of the turn of phrase she used, like the prose, the dialogue, like the cadence, she has a lot of
Yeah.
alliteration. A lot of it just sounds really dope said out loud.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed that, or do I just sound
100%.
crazy?
I feel like she's said that that's like the best way to. It's almost meant to be read aloud. I feel like I've heard her say
Mhm.
that somewhere. But I have the same thing. There's so many times, especially with the Gallant was the first thing that I read by her. Period. And
Right.
so when I was reading that, there was so many times that I had to go back and reread something because I was so lost in just how beautiful the words were that I totally missed what happened. I was just having fun with the words, and so I was like, okay, well, I guess we're going back and redoing
Right.
that because I didn't want to miss anything. But it's gorgeous and it's just fun to read. It's so engaging and it's like energizing to read in a way, right? Um, I've had a similar experience where I'm slowing down quite a bit. In hindsight, I wish I would have gone slower with Malazan. I think that would have
Mhm.
been, well, Malazan was weird for me. I went too slow through the first half, and then I think too fast through the back half. But
I think
anyway,
I had a similar experience with it,
okay.
especially Toll the Hounds through CG. I kind of, like I feel that same way with series as I do with books. Like as I'm approaching the end, I'm just like
Yeah, you sprint. Yeah.
I want to see what's going on. Like I need to
Hmm.
get that. Um, so and that's across the board.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't miss this from. I think we were talking about the maybe time skips or something. 5 years between Curse and Ships, a year or so between Ships and Warhost, and between Ships slash Warhost and Fugitive Prince. So small time skip.
Okay.
Little time skip in Arc 3.
Okay, so
Uh,
it's not as one to one like expected time skip with each arc.
I see. Okay, interesting. That's
Okay.
cool. Makes it less just more open, I guess, that way. Let's see. Yeah, this. So I'm learning my sweet spot. It depends very much on the series. I am being very thorough
I
with
saw
Fire
that you
Sun.
said you were gonna reread it after reading book one.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad I did. It was cool. It was really cool. So yeah, I caught so much more stuff because I was just oriented to the world, which makes me even like to reread this now that we're oriented to Ethera to go back and see all the. I feel like I haven't missed much, but like there's got to be things like you said earlier a couple times, like
When
the
I went
added
back to read The
context.
Gallant, I missed some things. I missed um I've been really taking my time with The Gallant and like reading each chapter,
Hmm.
and there are some facepalm moments where I'm like, okay, I missed this. Um in fact, speaking of Sam mentioning Book of the New Sun, I made a deal with him that if he reads some Janny, I'll read some Jean, so hopefully
Yes,
I got him on board. I
I
think he
love
is
this.
interested in Master of White, but I might have also sold him on the Gallant, so we'll
Let's
see.
go. Let's go. That's awesome. I would love to hear him talk about Janie stuff, and I'd love to hear you talk about some Wolf. That'd be cool. So I'll be a fly on the wall.
I kind of
Um,
described the Gallant as similar to like The Fall from Ryan Cahill, not in any like
hmm.
like similarities as far as like the book, but I'm saying in terms of like an entry point for a new reader. Like
Yeah,
you could read The Fall after Of Blood and Fire, you could read The Gallant after Curse of the Mistwraith, but I don't think it ruins, even though it was published after Curse of the Mistwraith, I don't think it ruins anything if you read The Gallant before
no,
Curse. I think it fits perfectly there, but I
yeah,
also think it fits perfectly after Curse. Like it really just is different context you go into it with. So
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
people
going
ask me
in,
that all the time, which I should start with, and I'm like, you really can't go wrong.
you can't. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've only had the experience of going Gallant to Curse, but I thought it was really cool. Some of the, because I would see some. I did it that way because the Gallant's prologue story, right?
Mhm.
So I when I got to Curse, I was like, oh, I recognize this person, or I recognize this reference or whatever, and that was just fun. But I could totally see it working great the other way too. That's how I did Cahill stuff. Also, funny enough, I did the Fall first, and I'm really glad that I did. It was a cool like this is where it can go kind of
Oh, so we
thing.
diverged twice. I went of Blood and Fire, then The
Oh,
Fall.
interesting. Okay, interesting. There's some rabid fans that swear that is the only way you can do it. You
Is
got to
it
do Blood and
Blood
Fire
and Fire,
first.
then The Fall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, no, that's ridiculous. It's the way
That's
I
that's what I
went
think.
because I'm a publication order girly, but I don't think it was like requisite reading. Like I don't think you need to. And same with The Gallant and Curse. Like they're both such amazing jumping on points. And I think that was done intentionally. And dude, are you stoked for The Guardian?
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
man,
I'm pretty
I'm
hyped about that.
I'm very excited. Do we gotten any news on potentially timeline stuff for that? Janny's in the chat. I don't know if we can get an NLR exclusive here, maybe. Uh, Sam says we're pronouncing the Gallant wrong.
Gallant.
I said read the Gallant. If only there was an audiobook. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. That'd be cool. We need more
That'd be
audiobooks of
dope.
everything, don't we?
Yeah.
That
It
would be very
really
cool.
I've heard such good things about the Colin Mace audiobook, but I haven't actually sat down. I feel like this series really would benefit from having more. I know yourself, you're not a big audio book listener, but there's a lot of people when they hear big long series and they don't have those audiobooks that they get kind of frustrated. Like,
Sure.
oh wow, I can't. But so I'm hoping more people that do enjoy audio aren't thrown off by that. Like they're willing to get Curse of the Mistwraith. The problem is, I'm just gonna get into like my own viewpoint of the publication, the audiobook thing. Is like
Okay.
they need audiobook sales on book one to justify doing book two. But a lot of people don't want to dive into book one knowing that there is no
Mm,
audiobook for book two. So it's just
yeah.
like the conundrum. But I think more people should get it. That way we can get a book two. And that's just another entry point for more fans because a lot of people do love audiobooks.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and that's I mean honestly like I'm hoping that all of the hype that all of us here on BookTube are trying to build, like we're doing this because we love the series. Like we would talk about it regardless.
Yeah,
But if it can help get more audiobooks made because more people are interested and they start the series and maybe they
right.
contact, Audible or whoever, like, hey, we really want these, that
And
maybe
I
those get made.
yearn for the day that I go to Barnes and Noble and there is like flagrant like Janny is like up there on the shelf. Like
Yeah.
I know that day will come because I see the way the tides are shifting and people are really waking up to the quality of
Hmm.
this series especially. But I yearn for that day where I'm just
Yeah.
like I can like say hey to my girlfriend and be like, "There's Janny Wurts book right there on the shelf."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I've
I
seen like some Janny books on the shelf, but not to the level that it deserves.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like sometimes somebody a friend that I talk to on Instagram sometimes, he sent me a message that he finally is like he was bugging the people who worked at his local Barnes and Noble over and over and over and over till they finally started carrying Sun Eater. And it seems like
Right.
he's huge now, right? So it's like people who they feel so popular here on the internet, but it's like it just takes a while for it to permeate out into like the physical bookstores and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying. We're gonna keep building the wave. We're gonna
Right.
keep building the wave. Let me consult my notes here and see if there's anything else that I want to make sure that we hit on that we haven't already. Um, Ooh, yeah. Okay, so we have talked about the the writing style. Everyone talks about the prose, right? So we don't need to get into that too much.
Mhm.
But I think something that you and I both really appreciate is how strong the perspectives are, and how
Yes.
they are so unbelievably internally consistent.
Mhm.
And what we see through one POV, and then we switch to somebody else, and we're seeing the same events, but it feels like something completely different is happening because of their internal dialogue, or just how they're reacting to it or whatever. And I just I appreciate that so much. It just feels so real, right? Like
Mhm.
these characters feel real in a way that, as much, there's so many stories that I love so much, but I think the only other series that they felt this real was A Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
That I get that here now, and I'm just like, these are legitimately real people. Like, this isn't a book anymore,
Yeah.
you know? Crazy.
And one thing I think is so brilliant that she does with the perspectives is she gives just as much weight to somebody like Dakar, right? He views a lot of events. He's a very, he gets a lot of page time. But
Hmm.
then you have characters that maybe get 10 to 15 pages out of the entire 600 pages, and their perspective you can tell has been given just as much thought as someone like Dakar.
Yeah.
Dakar? Oh,
I
I'm
say
failing.
Dakar, but well, let's see.
Dakar.
We got pronunciation right here, don't we? Let's see. I'll report back. Oh, what? Look at that! I opened right to the page. What are the
Yes.
odds? Uh, Pronounced Dakar. Yeah.
Okay.
Root
Word.
meaning Dakiar, which means clumsy.
Oh
Funny.
my goodness. See, I really need to go, like, I'm a fake fan because I finished the book and I set it down. I, a fool, should have known to go through the glossary and look at the etymology of all the different words.
Oh, it's so funny. I love that. But it's what a great real time example of how everything is planned, right? Everything has
Also,
a place.
side note that has nothing to do with her art. I'm pretty sure most of the internal artworks, the covers, this is all Janny's like own art,
I think so.
which is insane.
Yeah. This is
Like,
hers,
I
right?
feel like it gives her a better understanding of the characters. Like,
Yeah.
look at this, dude. Like, okay, for instance, Lysair's hand hovering right over his sword,
Uh huh.
and the way Erathon is clutching his instrument. I feel like that's low key hinting at their different, like maybe Lysair's too quick to violence in a way, and then the level of like it almost feels like he's cradling his Lyranth, like he's protecting it, like the
Yeah.
level of adoration he has for the music and for the art. Like, do you think I'm grasping at something there, or do
No,
you think it
I think you're 100% right. And even like Lyser's, like, he's standing up because he's like the big muscular, and
right?
Arathon's kind of like, chilling, and he's a little more closed in, quiet, reserved. Like, I think all of it is very intentional. There's so many layers. Chippy had another good example. Um, in Warhost, there's somebody who we don't see much of at all early on in ships, and then we kind of get much more
I
developed, right?
actually emailed Janny about the exact character Chippy Poe's talking about. I messaged you too
Yeah, you
about
told,
this
yeah, yeah.
character. I was like, oh, so well done for like
Hmm.
somebody who hadn't like in a certain relationship involving that character. I think I messaged you about that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, 100%.
it's
No,
awesome.
it is amazing.
It really is. It's amazing. It is. Um, wow, we've hit pretty much everything I wrote on my notes. Do you have other stuff that you wanted to make sure that we talk about? If not, we can ad lib a little bit.
Mm, I think I think that's everything. I think that's everything I touched up on in my notes. I mean, I mainly Jake was kind enough to give me bullet points for this, and I just kind of ripped them off. But I think we covered all of your stuff and then my stuff that I plagiarized. So
I think the other thing that we've already kind of hit on this a little bit, but with how much is contained in this book, and how And Janny mentioned this too in the big discussion that we did on the Talking Story channel with like, this was such a difficult book to write because she had to pack so much groundwork in here with the immensity of the series that like things couldn't just come out of nowhere, right? It had to be kind of built in. And um, I was sitting there and I was like thinking through like just how much is there, right? So we talked about, we have the worlds, right? Not just one necessarily. We have we talked about the maps and all the characters and the etymology and all of that. We talked about the nations and the politics and the command structure through there, and their conflicts between them. We have obviously our main characters. We talked about the ancient races. We talked about the different uh, mage factions and like with the magic
The
itself,
powers at play.
powers
Yeah.
of you might say. And then I wrote down also like we have prophecies we haven't talked about. That's part of this book
Mhm.
that don't necessarily always come true. Right? There's some wiggle room in there. We have magical artifacts. There's a certain sword in here that I think is just really really cool, and
Mhm.
some other little things like that. We have we talked about the races. It seems to me this might be wrong, but something I'm kind of thinking about. This is I wouldn't I'm very spoiler sensitive, and I would not consider this a spoiler. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna say that. In Malazan, there's sort of we see how the magic evolves over time.
Right.
There's sort of different, and it's not even really different forms. It's just different evolutions. And
Mhm.
I wonder if that's also in this that we'll kind of see as we learn more about, like you mentioned at the start of this, we're in like the third age is when this is taking place, which
Yes.
means there's been some that already happened, right?
Mhm.
And others that will come later. So I wonder if we're gonna see how the magic maybe changes.
And the sorcerers that are viewing the third age, they're from the seventh. Like,
That's right. Yeah.
so it's like there is so much history prior and after, up to the point that we are then getting this framing narrative for.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very interested. Like, I don't know, like, is that third age will is that it is this whole series held within the third age? I'm pretty sure it is. That's what we've been given in the framing narrative. But I wonder, like, I just feel like there's like so much history, and I don't think that was just an arbitrary number. Like, I don't think Janny was just like, and they're actually from the seventh age, because I don't know, let's do 4 ages. Like, I think there's a reason for that,
Probably.
and she's already thought through whatever shifts went through the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. I know she has. Like, she's just that type of person.
For sure.
So
Which, by the way, bang on with the symbology on the cover. There's heaps more. Of course, there's heaps more.
I peeped that whenever you were talking. I was like looking at it. Um,
As we read more books, I'm sure. I do know. I know what the statues are, so that's fun. That's a nice little layer. Um, Obviously, those we kind of know what the smoky mist business is,
mhm.
but and the ruins that we see, but other like just in terms of symbology beyond the physical things on here, I don't. Hmm.
I feel like we're both like Pikachu open mouth meme, like, like we're looking at it on live trying to figure it out. We're just like,
I have been that meme so many times with this series. Sam says, "Why is Words compared to Wolf a lot? Is it just the density of the books?" That's a really interesting question. I don't know if I've heard that comparison personally. Um, I think that there a similarity that I have noted, like they're both very intentional and concise. Obviously, Wars of Light and Shadow is longer as a whole than the Book of the New Sun is, but um, it's just there's just more going on in the story, I think. So like they're very tight in that way. I think the POVs are similarly very very strong. Like we mentioned with these, I think Severians is like that.
mhm.
Um, why else would it be similar?
I can't really speak on this because I haven't read Shadow of the Torture, but from my
Mhm.
outside perspective, I see both of them are attributed this like transcendental. Well, I've heard that more correlated with Wars of Light and Shadow, but I've heard both series attached like a level of depth more than a lot of other genre fiction, which
Mhm.
I think a lot of genre fiction has a lot of depth. But I'm saying like me being on the outside of Gene Wolfe, I've heard both of these authors being like elevated fantasy, elevated sci-fi. Like they're both in that conversation. So
Yeah.
that's the only correlation I could think of. But I'm not really one to speak on that. I have
Yeah.
not yet read. Uh,
Oh, you have it though.
I do. I have both of them. Well, I don't have Earth and the New Sun, but I have
Nice.
these little two collections.
That's cool. I'm obsessed, dude. I can't wait. I can't wait to keep reading. I'm already like I want to read everything that Wolf has written. Like I'm just
That
it's
yeah. I think right now I'm focused on the Wurts hype train, but I know what I'll go to whenever, whenever I've tapped that entire bibliography, which
yeah.
I think will probably be sometime toward the end of this year, because I've got Master of White Storm, brilliant. And then I just got this in the mail, Sorcerer's Legacy,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
then Jake was kind enough to give me to write Hell's Chasm, so maybe I will, kind of like how you're having to do because of the read along. Maybe I will intersperse some of her more standalone Cycle of Fire between her
Yeah. That could be
mainline
cool.
entries.
Yeah. Okay. Janie says Wolf messes with perspective. That's true. The series does, but in a different way. That feels
Hmm.
true. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other I think that's a pretty key difference too is in Book of the New Sun there's a lot like he will just straight up not tell you things.
Right.
Whereas Janny doesn't seem to do that at all, right? It's like we said earlier like it's all right there. There's just
Mhm.
it's there for you to pick up on if you're paying attention. Whereas Gene Wolfe will just straight up omit things and later Sam will tell you that you missed all these things and then you figure it out.
I'm so happy that I'm gonna have his friendship going into Gene Wolfe.
Yeah.
But speaking of perspective, one thing that I'd heard about this series that I thought there's no way that could work is like the main character of Erathon, you don't really get his perspective often, if at all.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember hearing that and being like, can you really do that for a main character? And I'd seen that done very well with Tavor from Malazan and Animator Rake from Malazan, but these are
Yes.
not like main characters. When I tell you that her decision to do that with Erathon is one of the most brilliant things about this series, like really endears you to Erathon, because what essentially happens, and this is spoilers vague, okay, but you get so many characters that have a bias against Erathon, and you see them gradually like see things about him and be like you have your opinion. You go in with these characters' perspectives with a wrong perspective of Erathon so many times, and you see how this shifts for them, and
Hmm.
it just serves to show like how genius of a character. Like Erathon, I'm a hardcore Erathon fanboy. I'll probably
Yeah.
get an Erathon tattoo at some point.
Let's
Like
go.
it's just I think that the way that his character is shown to the reader through all these different perspectives is brilliant. And
Yeah.
I think that there is a layer there that we would not have gotten if so many of the sections were from his POV. I actually really like that she took us away from his POV. Now, maybe that'll change as we go into the series. I don't know. But so far, where I'm at, we don't really get a ton of Erathon's perspective. And I think that that was a like brilliant move.
Yeah. Same. I actually I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this too, but um, hearing you talk about that, and I'm like, yeah, you're so right, and I'm glad I had that same experience with Animander and Tavor, and I'm like, I'm really glad that I read Malazan before this because that's the series that kind of showed me that you could do this, that you could learn about a character through the eyes of somebody else. Like that's all
Coltane,
you get.
another one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Mhm.
And like so I feel like I got that skill from
Right.
reading Malazan and just like reading some of these other series and like I feel like I can come to this now with not that it's so advanced that you have to be a fantasy expert to get it. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm glad that this isn't the first thing I ever read because I feel like I kind of have a it's a little bit easier to pick up on some of those like extra layers. You would still get a great experience if this is your first story, I think. But like
Mhm.
you just get some extra layers if you are looking for other stuff. Would you agree with that?
I would say, and that again, I do not want to like make anyone believe that this series is more difficult than it is. I think like with my own reader experience and life experience, I mean, not to say that I'm like old, but like as a 26-year-old man, I know 19-year-old me would not have been able to glean the same meaning out of this
Yeah,
book.
no way. Me
Just with
either.
my life experience and my reading experience, if this had been 7 years prior, even as like an adult man at 19, I don't think I would have. I think a lot of this would have gone way over my head.
Oh,
Um,
100%. Me at 26, I don't think I think a lot of it would have gone over my head.
well, maybe by the time
When you're
I
old
hit
like
your
me.
age, I'll reach Nirvana and be like, oh, because earlier you did say you're like, I don't think I've missed much. I think I've missed some, but
I mean, I said that about Book of the New Sun too, and then I reread it and was like, oh, okay.
oh yeah,
So,
that's that.
well, what
AP
is your
Canavan did that for me a lot with Malazan.
yes? Oh, dude, me, I can't wait to reread that. I'm so jealous of you guys doing that reread now. I wish I had the time for it.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite book from Janny so far?
I want to hear you first. Which would you say is your
Oh,
favorite?
um, I'm gonna say Ships and Warhost as a single book. I'll cheat a little
Okay.
bit and say that because I think that I almost said Mistwraith because I just love so dearly what is set up here, but Ships Warhost is just stronger. As great as this is, it's just a stronger book, I think. So
I have a certain. Okay, so as I'm word vomiting this to you, I'm not really sure where I'm going with it, but I
okay,
have a special attachment to the Gallant. I've been really diving in and looking at the Gallant, and I think Varane's story is something that really connects to with me personally.
hmm
But and this will probably change after I read Ships and Warhost. I'm saving that because right now Warhost is looking like it could be my book of the year. Very much loving it, but I'm not gonna say Ships and Warhost when I'm 150 pages into Warhost. Like,
sure,
to be that guy.
that's fair.
Um, I guess like the Gallant is so amazing, but it is a novella, and man, Master of White Storm in
Let's
terms of
go.
like a full narrative. And I think so many people go into this with the expectations. Like I had been pitched as like this feels sword and sorcery, feels like a collection of serials almost of this guy going on taking impossible job. Little side tangent about something that's not Wars of Light and Shadow, but he's going on taking on these impossible jobs, and they all feel kind of short story, like sword and sorcery, kind of like Conan the Barbarian, Geralt of Rivia type stuff, but a
Okay,
little bit more nuanced. But there is a through line to this series. There is a question of why is this mercenary doing these jobs? And much like with Arathon, the character of Corandir in here, which I think that he was a precursor for Arathon, very different type of character aesthetically. He's like a warrior, a fighter. He's not, a musician. He's not a shadow master. But she does a similar thing where you have this distance from him, and it
Mm.
leads to you questioning. Like it's not a one-to-one comparison, but I definitely think it was her playing with that idea that she then perfected with Arathon. But man, this was a great standalone. Like I really put it up there. And I see a
Tough.
lot of people say like when you're reading Janny, start with To Ride Hell's Chasm. I think Joanne had to start with To Ride Hell's Chasm, and I'm sure it's amazing. I haven't gotten to it
It's
yet.
great. Yeah.
But Master of Wildstorm deserves to be in that conversation. It's like if you want to try a Janny standalone, and the audiobook's good. Simon Preble killed it.
Ooh, cool. Nice. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can't wait to read. I own everything she's written now, except for the Feist books. I haven't gotten those yet. But the what is that?
Check out these
Riftwar,
covers she did, by the way.
dude. Oh, it's
That's
so nice.
insanity.
That's the Grim Oak one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a little they're a little pricey, but it's
What are
worth
you
it.
gonna What are you gonna do? I don't want to keep pulling Book of the New Sun back in this, but I'm definitely strongly considering buying the Folio Society Book of the New Sun because it's just beautiful and it's like $220 or something, and it's 4 books technically. So I'm like, oh, it's like $50 a book.
Yeah.
Coping. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Within Wars, I can see this happening to me too, right? Your favorite tends to just be the one you're reading at that point. More love for White Storm. Love to see that. Chibi Pope
Red
preferred
Hell's
Hell's
Chasm
Chasm.
easily best.
It's great, dude. It's
Okay.
great. I read that on that. Wow, this is a crazy memory now. So I was reading that at the end of my bodybuilding contest prep last year in November.
Mhm.
That got me through the plane ride back home because I did a show back close to my parents, and
Okay.
I hate flying. I'm terrified of planes, and that got me through the plane ride, and it was like I was so sucked into the story I wasn't even thinking about the plane. So there's your sell. There's
Okay.
your sell.
Okay. Well, it's really the Janny Wurts on the cover that sold me, but that has sold me even harder. Um, right on, right on.
Yeah, the artwork for that book is so cool, dude. With the uh, animals, I'll just say. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, he likes the folio ones. Sam bought White Storm. Sam
We
bought
were
White
just having a
Storm.
conversation about
There we
that.
go.
I've been pushing it.
On audio. Perfect. Okay. I'm a beginner. What's up? Thank you for tuning in. I don't know how to pronounce this screen name, but that's cool. I am a beginner in the fantasy genre, unsure whether I should start this series as I'm not proficient in English and I'm concerned about its complexity with metaphors based on what I've heard. So, from what I have gathered from our big read along group that we're doing with Talking Story, Sylvia's from Bulgaria and Abel is
Abel.
from Italy. Is it
Okay.
Abel or Abel? I want to know.
I think you're right. I
I should
think
just ask him.
you've done collaborative
Um,
stuff with him. I'm probably wrong.
I'm usually just like, hey man, like I haven't like really said it. Anyway, I should figure that out. Sorry if you see this. Um, but so they both are they speak English, but it's not their native language, and they've both expressed that they've had some difficulty with the language in here, just because it is a little bit more embellished, maybe is a reasonable word, but not that you can't read it and can't understand it, but there's that they had to go slower and like look up some more words in the dictionary and that sort of thing. So I've heard that. I can't speak to that experience personally, but I've heard some people say that.
I
Um,
can say as somebody who only speaks English, there were some moments in the book like well, sometimes I'm like if I'm just in my bed and I'm chilling before I go like before I sleep, I'm not going to look up what the words mean, but if it's like my midday reading, I'll be like and I notice when I read Janny, the my search history looks like define and then like a dozen words. Like define neap tide because I didn't know what that was.
yeah.
Ribald um like there's just a lot of like different things here and there where I'm like I did not know what that word was. But there are times where I just you can piece it through with context clues, but this is like
Mm.
I'm not speaking as someone who has a background in a different language and this is their second language. I'm just saying like I do think some of the vocabulary can be a little bit more on the difficult side within the fantasy genre. Um, so I definitely understand that. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are all the thoughts.
Yeah. I think being a beginner in fantasy is as a separate idea from like a non-native English speaker. I wouldn't be concerned with that personally.
Mhm.
Um, I think you'll have a great like you're starting off with a very high standard. I'll say that. But yeah, I don't think that would be a huge issue. Similar, yeah, okay, similar story there. Yeah. Yeah, go a little slower. It'd be okay. Don't be afraid to look up some more. I look up words all the time too. I have a similar search
Same.
history. That's usually I have my phone right next to me when I'm reading one of her books, so I can look up a word or jot down a note here and there or whatever. It's
There
helpful.
are so many times where I like put my phone on the charger so I can like read my book without any distraction of my phone. And I notice when I read Janny, I'm always like, all right, time to. Oh, what does that word mean? I look at my phone across the room as I'm like relaxed and I'm like, it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. I can piece it together.
yeah, for
So
sure. I've heard some people mention how I didn't even know you could do this. I guess on an ebook you can just like look it up right away, just from the Kindle screen or the Kobo or whatever you have.
oh
Um,
yeah, I've heard Matt's fantasy books. He does a similar thing. He does a lot of e-reading, and I've heard he looks things up. Like
Interesting.
I've heard that mentioned. I just have not practiced it.
Yeah, me either. Interesting. Um, okay, maybe closing thoughts. I know we both have read the next book in the series, but a question for you, sir. when you finished Curse of the Mistwraith, what was your headspace? Like, how did you feel? What were you like? I mean, I know you were excited to continue, but like, what were you excited for, or like, what was the general vibe?
All right. So again gonna stay spoilers vague, but in this book there is a sort of climax that is built up. And I think when I was looking at my copy, like I thought this would be what we were getting in the last 100 pages. And really the built up climax is kind of given to you much sooner. And then there's rising action once again that you're getting throughout the second half of the book. But what you get like a sort of like semi climax to that rising action, and it gave me enough satisfaction to where I could take a little pause but before ships, and I did. And I don't know if I'm going to continue to do that through the arcs, but it gave me a little bit of time to think about things. And this book does set up a lot for the world of Athera. So me personally, I took a step back and I thought about things, and it was like I had feelings of melancholy, feelings of hope,
Mm.
feelings of wanting to see where this narrative progressed, feelings of, oh, if things could have just been a little bit different. Like I wish I was in this alternate universe where things didn't have to go that way. So that might have been a little bit of the hesitancy to read the next book. Like I thought that it was the right choice for the narrative, but there were parts where I'm like, ah, dang, like sucks that I had to go down that way.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, still overall, what about yourself? What were your feelings upon closing?
yeah. Man, I think I had such a. I remember closing the. I closed the back cover and just set the book down, and it was one of those. It was the same thing as like the end of a lot of Malazan books, or just a bunch of things. Like you close it and you just like, and you just have to decompress for a second, because like just so much happened. The end of this is explosive. There's so much going on, and so I had to like take a deep breath, and I was like my immediate thought after I took that deep breath, this is going to be one of my all-time favorite series. After book one,
Yeah.
I was like, I know this. There's no question. And so I was so excited to continue, but like I said earlier, glad that I had some space between the books to let
Right.
it, because I had learned that through reading some other more complicated books in the past. Is just like I like having that little bit of space to just kind of let it sit, because I feel like I understand it more and get more out of it, but also like it makes me really like yearn for it, right? Like I just like, oh, I can't wait to get back, and it
Yeah.
helps me to not feel burnt out about anything,
Mhm.
and that sort of thing. So that was really, that's where I was. This is maybe
I-
another. This is interesting too. This is a very good point, right?
Right.
So I don't think we should. Yeah, you'll have to look some words up. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
it's a good skill.
it's good though. It's good
Yeah.
because
It's fun. I think you learn stuff, right? It's cool.
yeah, no, she is definitely like she's read her Shakespeare and like she her vocabulary is very very robust in the best ways.
Hmm.
Like it comes back to that concision, right? Like she will use the best word for that scene, and it may not be a word that you use colloquially like every day. And
Yeah.
it's like it's good to be challenged in that way.
Hmm.
And I understand like if you're not an English speaker, that may be an added challenge to it, but I don't think a challenge is always like you shouldn't balk at that challenge. You should be like, okay, let's get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I and yeah, I definitely understand how you said that like after reading book one, you knew this was going to be your favorite series of all time. I, interestingly enough, I made like a top 15, and at number 7, I had Wars of Light and Shadow. And I said, this gets the pick for the most likely to change places. Because like,
Hmm.
I only read one book, so I'm like, I can't really put it in front of all this stuff. But now, after reading Ships, I'd put it top 3. And when I took
Yeah.
Wars of Light
Yeah.
my top 3, they're like, oh, like what book are you on? Like they think I'm like on book 8 or 9. I'm like, oh, I'm almost done with book 2. There's usually that shock because I'm like, Malazan, I've read every book in the universe. Realm of the Elderlings, I've read all 16. And it's like, Janny Wurts, I'm almost done with book 2. And I'm playing those. So,
I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I think when I made my top 10, I'd only read book 1, and
Mhm.
so I left it just off of the 10th spot
Right.
purely because I was like, this is so hard to choose between some of these. And so I was like, I'm just gonna make an arbitrary rule. I won't put any manga on here. I'll make a favorite manga list,
Right.
and I won't put this on here because I've only read the first book, and I just really wanted to talk about the Bad and the Broken. That was my 10th spot. I just really
Yeah.
wanted to talk about that because I don't think I had talked about it on my channel yet. And then the minute I started ships, I was like, okay, sorry, Ryan, like we got this is getting in there. And at this point now, after finishing Warhost, I'm with you. I think it's
No,
uh, I think it's top
some
3.
some fantasy fans may balk at this. I finished ships and I was like, I had to say sorry not to Ryan, but to Tolkien. I had to be like, okay.
Ooh,
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. There's 3 authors I would put ahead of Tolkien, and that's Erickson, Hobb, and Wurts. So, not to be like, I don't want to be the person that is constantly like ranking things, but it's just like I think Tolkien is like the bar for fantasy, right? Like he is the father of the fantasy. Well, not really. Like you can go back to like
sure,
Beowulf and different things, but he is who we think of when we think of like the fantasy genre. A lot of the time, we grew up on Lord of the Rings, you know.
yeah,
And those are 3 authors that I think of that just in my mind are just like a level above, at least in my own estimation.
sure, yeah. I mean, Tolkien wasn't even on my top 10 list. I'll be honest, but that's to be fair. I've only read the books once, and it was like right at the beginning of my adult reading journey. I'll say. Um, I would love to. I want to reread it and see if I get more out of it this time. But when I read it, I was like, yeah, the movies are better, which I know is a not. I know. So I'll reread it at some point, and
The
I'll.
female characters are better in. I think Arwen was better in the movies, hands.
Okay.
Speaking of female characters, uh, I know like there has been words said about like, oh, Janny Wurts like the first book doesn't have a lot of prominent female characters, and I feel like that expectation was attached there because Janny herself is a woman.
Mm,
But I thought Alara was like super well written in the
she's
few
great.
pages she got. Like they're all the depth that they're saying they didn't see for the female characters. It's like right there on the page. And my favorite quote from Ships was actually Alara perspective chapter. I'd say Arathon, Alara, and Dakar probably in that order are my faves.
Marathon Alira. It's hard to argue with. It's hard to argue with. I have some thoughts. I'm not going to share anything yet though, because I want you to finish the book you're reading first.
Okay, fair
Uh,
enough.
but I have some thoughts on that note. Um, man, you got anything else? This was great.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think this has
Man,
been a great conversation.
we did it. We did it. So please go check out this book. Okay. Both of us talk about these a lot, but we are going to talk about it more because we both
Mhm.
really love this series, and it's already getting up really high on our favorites list. And
And I
um,
think we've both talked about doing a spoiler filled discussion where we dive into. I'm hope like I don't mean to call you out on live, but we're both still interested in that, right? Like
100%, 100%.
yeah.
Let's do it.
So hopefully we can like go into each like more particular in the scenes and like pull quotes and be like,
Yeah,
what was just more analytical
yeah, yeah.
is my hope.
100%. Me too. Yeah, and I think we also sort of intentionally didn't come into this spoiler free one with like, well, what are some themes in the story? Just because we already talked about that in the talking story thing, and like that stuff is out there. We wanted to try to bring up some other different stuff that hasn't been talked about ad nauseum at this point. So I'm excited for the spoiler one because we'll be able to get into a lot more of
The
like
nitty
more
gritty.
nitty gritty, more unique stuff, and that'll be that'll be fun. We're gonna see how much we can rip off Philip and AP with their Malazan content with
Yeah.
us doing Where's Light and Shadow. We'll see. Um, anyway, dude, this has been the best. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your evening to talk about this thing that we both love. This is great. Thanks to the chat for hanging out with us. Thanks for Janny for showing up.
Thanks,
That was
Janny, for
awesome.
coming.
Yeah.
Chippy Poe, you as well. Sam, all
Yeah,
of y'all.
Sam.
It's been awesome.
It has been awesome. Anybody watching this on replay, thank you for watching. Drop us a comment. As I said, if you're not subscribed to Shay, make sure you go do that right now. He's the man. One of my favorite friends that I've made on BookTube. It has been great to do
Aw.
this with you, man. So,
I
um,
appreciate that.
course. Okay. I think that's it. We will